everybody. Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips, the Thursday edition, with me, your host, Ann, Disembodied Hands, Quinty, Disembodied Beard, John, and even the mighty Derek Schubert, Studio DKS, in the chat. I see you. Unlurking. Yeah, did you get buried? Like, how much snow did you guys get in Maine, Derek? Yeah, everybody's got the coldness. Yeah, I saw you guys had weather that was pretty cold still. Twisted on when I was staring at the. David looked up where people were yesterday. He is mighty. The true triple threat. I'm a different triple threat. He's got the singing. I've got the writing. But I've actually been working on my voice again, Derek, because I'm concerned. I've been pretty hoarse lately. I'm like, I cannot get old lady voice. I will not. So I've been doing vocal exercises in the morning most days. Still a little rough this morning, but I think it's just this wet weather, like, gets my allergies going too, and that doesn't help. Let's go over to the thing. We're dragonkinning today. A foot, and then it warmed up and rained and melted. All right. So not too bad then. Not too bad. I know up in the Northeast you guys often get really dumped on, so. All right, what are we doing today? We're doing, I used the driftwood brown for her belly, but I think I need to saturate that a bit more. I think I'm going to go a bit more golden with that. We'll go like almost a fractured primary triad where we've got the red and the yellow and then teal instead of blue. We might experiment with that. I'm gonna warm up this color though. We're gonna block in some of her other colors today. I just feel like I'm constantly clearing my throat, and I know that's probably allergies. So it's like it comes and goes. Comes and goes. There we go. See, I feel like I want to warm up because everything else is quite saturated at this point since we did our little proof of concept down here. I definitely want to warm up her brown, tan, beige. I'm going to bring it up for sure, but I want it to warm up a little bit and be a little more saturated because next to everything else, everything else as it's going to turn out, it's pretty desaturated. So I'm going to get my brown liner out first, and then we're going to try to get some of those whites and stuff, the off-whites and the beiges squared away. Since I used the same color for her claws as I did for her underside, her horns, the horns and claws will go up much lighter than the underbelly. And Green Users is better looking than anybody here because they've got 70s right now. So I hear anyway. Arizona. Cheaty Arizona in the winter. That's why I wish I was there. I'm just jealous. So jealous. Beyond jealous. No, they get cold at night, Lord Dave. Not yet, still 50s right now. I saw it was supposed to be like 70s for you the next couple days. Maybe the weather forecasters are just wishful thinking. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of a shadow for this because I do want the belly area to be different than the horns, and the color I've got on the horns and claws is about the darkest I want, other than lining. So I'm going to darken this a little bit with a shadow. So I'm going to mix a little bit of my russet brown, my ever-present awesome. When you need a saturated dark brown, it's russet. Ice on the water last week. Yeah, I was going to say, it gets cold in Arizona, too. Ugh. Yeah, that's Ucky Shadow Raven. So I decided I was going to put aside, I was originally thinking I'd make myself a smaller cowl, but I decided my next knitting project is actually going to be the dog blanket. I bought a bunch of yarn for a dog blanket for Kiki last year. And now she's to the age where she actually can use it, and we actually let her get on the couch in the TV room with us sometimes. But the blanket we've got in there is more for people. It's a 100% wool, and that's just it's so hard to wash wool. It's just annoying. And so I want something I can machine wash for Kiki to sit on, because it's just gonna smell like Kiki. So I decided I needed to move on that project, which is great because I've got a lot of yarn for it. Because knowing blankets take a lot of yarn, I bought a lot of yarn. Yeah, last week was just cold everywhere. Yeah, Arizona gets below freezing at night in the winter for sure. At night it gets very, very cold, as I recall. Quite chilly. Another color we could use to warm up that underbelly color is actually what I use for NMM, rich leather, but we're going to be using that color for the gold probably on this model. So I think I would rather not. We have to use NMM on this model because I'm planning to do a lava effect on the rock here. Whenever you're doing a fake effect that you're trying to create the illusion of something, it's a bad idea to do metallics on the same model because essentially you're putting something real next to something fake and it makes the fake thing look even faker. So yeah, I don't know how much I'll use. I'm going to start, I figured out my pattern last night. I used my Remarkable 2 to draw a pattern and figure out how many inches across and how many stitches go into an inch and all that kind of thing, so I know how many cast-ons. I'm going to do it, it's not going to be like all one piece. I'm going to actually do it in pieces and then whip stitch it together. So that way I can do different panels and then figure out how they go together. Yeah, it's real, Lord Dave. We demonstrated it in the past. I know you're not on that much, but we demonstrated it in the past on the bronze golem. I did a glowing effect like a furnace in its chest and around its limb caps, but the minute I put true metallics on there, it looked wrong. It looked like it was just a design painted on. It no longer had the illusion. And it's exactly like standing on stage as a magician trying to pull off a magic trick when somebody's right next to you showing everybody how you're doing the trick. That's essentially why it doesn't work. So that's why NMM and metallics don't work together. It's why any OSL can work with metallics, but you have to shade and highlight your metallics really well to get it to work. Like really so much forced shading and highlighting that I think you almost are taking metallics not metallic in the places where you're highlighting them, because you really are, it's dicey. It's dicey. You can do it, but it's dicey. Oh dear. Yeah. Yeah, Central Canada is pretty much the frozen layer of hell. I know this. I once dated somebody from Saskatchewan. But yeah, okay, so we're going to get our liner, we're going to get a shadow color, we're going to take our driftwood brown, and we're going to add just a little bit of yellow to it, just to bring up the saturation. We could also add a yellow oxide. So maybe I'll do that. So we're gonna, there's yellow oxide already in driftwood, so let's back up and get our colors here. So that's the liner. That's 3 drops of driftwood, 1 drop of russet brown. This is straight up driftwood, but we're gonna put some yellow in it. And I'm not going to use a faded out yellow. Like, I'm going to use the straight yellow oxide. I'm not going to use like buckskin pale, which is technically like a yellow oxide and white mixture. And I'm not going to do that because I want to control the amount of white. I don't want to just give the amount of white over to whatever lighter paint I'm using. There are times I will do that. If I just use Runic Glow, for example, if I know I'm mixing magenta and white, and that's usually because I know how much white is in there. That's the color I would have mixed anyway. In this case, I'm not sure what color I'm going to bring this up to, so I just want to go a little bit. So adding yellow oxide yellow, into this is going to make it more saturated without like bringing it up with something like really punchy like lantern. And part of the decision process for that is also that I know I'm doing NMM gold, so I need to remember that this is the color I'm using for my NMM gold. I want to make sure these things don't look too close to each other. So I'll put 1 big drop of yellow oxide in there. Boop. And then we're probably just going to bring up that mix that I just did with some Osirian sand, but I'll keep it in frame so as I add water and mix these guys up, you can see. We're going to keep them pretty thick at first. Oh yeah, granny squares. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's another way you can do this, right? So I'm just making like irregular patches, and then I'm gonna put them together because I have about I'm using black, dark gray, cream because it has to be mostly neutral because our stuff in that room is neutral. But then I also have a variegated cream gray teal and a one single skein of brighter teal, more saturated teal that I'm going to use for accent bars. So some smaller pieces. And I decided to do it in sections so that I could work on each section at a time and it wouldn't be overwhelming. The bigger sections will take me a long time, but I kind of was just, with my knitting right now, I'm not looking to like do anything fancy. I really just want something that I can do to chill, right? And for me then, doing something simple, like big pieces of a blanket, like that's very appealing. Oh, Kodiak. But yeah, so I want something that and my mom suggested, which was really fun because I chatted with her yesterday. She's knitting socks for the first time. But she suggested that I do a different stitch for each color, which sounds really fun. So I decided that I would take her up on that. I think I want to do a basket weave type stitch for the cream, and then for the gray, for the charcoal gray, I think I'll do squares patchwork, like a 4x4 seed stitch. And then I'm just thickening up my brown liner here just to make sure I've got it nice and bold, because I started with pretty dark colors on this, so I want some darker color. So I put 2 drops of water in, and I wanted to make it a little thicker than that, so there we go. But yeah, and then I'm just kind of figuring it out. I've never done the basket weave stitch, so that'll be my new thing that I learn. But it should be cool. It's a 75% acrylic and 25% wool blend yarn, and it's washable, machine wash low. So I'm happy. As long as it's washable, it can be a Kiki blanket yarn. I've got a fair amount of yardage, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so that's a darker color now, a darker version of driftwood. So this is definitely making it more yellow, more, I want a drop of Osirian sand in there. Because the problem with it is it's a little bit too close to the shadow color. I want to lighten it up just a little bit. And also, although that's more saturated, it's almost a little too saturated. So I don't want to take the yellow out of it, but I want to lighten it a little. You can desaturate in a lot of different ways. I like the yellow, but I don't want to keep it. So adding a little bit of white will let me keep that golden color but it'll take down the intensity a little bit. So we'll go there. We use them to protect our furniture, Pendrake. I have some old blankets that I have right now on our couch out in the main room, which is mostly her couch. But I've always, since I started knitting, I've kind of had this project in mind, which is why I bought the yarn. So, because she still likes to like dig at the upholstery and stuff like that. So she pretty much gets the blanket. The blanket is not for the Keekster, it is for the couch. But I'm planning to try a dog bone design in one of the center pieces. Oh, I forgot to do the red up there along the line too. Well, we'll get to it. All right, first let's sort out this thing. And we'll want a line as well. So I want to bring this color up with the golden color a little bit more. So I'm going to re-base coat. And again, we'll do kind of a proof of concept here. Yeah, Shilohs do like blankets and cushions. Leo used to make a cushion fort out of our old couch when I was in Texas. He would take the cushions and he would flip them up with his snout and build essentially this bunker of cushions, and then he would lie down in the middle of it and he would look totally happy. So my brown liner is still a bit thinned, which is good for these plates just because it makes a little bit of a softer shadow. It's not as hard. Ah, Crowley. How was it? I didn't realize you were running off on to a warm place. You're very smart. I wish I was in a warm place. I'm already planning to make our next Hawaii trip in January of next year. Maybe we'll go over to Maui, hop over to Maui for some snorkeling while we're there. I don't know. We'll see. Or maybe I'll suggest to David that we do Maui like for the 2 days at like the front or the back of the trip. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Maui has better snorkeling than Oahu. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, my mom is always a little bit seasick. She's not a huge cruise fan, but my dad loves them, so she still does them, but she has to take her meds for sure. Sorry that you had to go through the queasiness. It's no fun. Just refining the bottom of the jaw here. Well, I mean, there's still a snorkeling area on Oahu at Hanauma Bay. We went, though there are things I don't like about Hanauma. The fish were huge, which was cool, and we saw a lot of different ones. But the problem with Hanauma is that it's very much like this nest of, like, it's like a maze of reef stone. And so if you're like me and you're not very practiced, it's hard to keep the water movement on a wavy day. It's hard to keep the water movement from pushing you close to or into the reefs. I managed to get out with only a tiny cut on my knee, but it's just not as ideal as, like, Maui has all sorts of places to snorkel. Like, it is if you want to go snorkeling, you go to Maui. If you really like to snorkel. And David really likes to snorkel. Maui's where he usually went with his parents. They love Hawaii too. Still managed to read 4 books. Well, good. It's always good. So let's get a little closer. So I'm putting on some lining on the stomach. You can see how that differentiates. I also did some up here. Cool dog father. Yeah, I'd like to go. I like going to Hawaii during the winter because it's just a tiny bit cooler. And I really would like to go up to the North Shore and see some big waves. We still saw some 10-footers while we were up there. But it was not quite winter. It was still the tail end of the warmer season when we were there. So the waves were kind of shifting. During the summer, it's the Honolulu side that's got the wave action, and during the winter it's the North Shore. Yeah. Yeah, we got sea turtles when we went to the Big Island. We saw I was right next to 2 baby sea turtles when I was snorkeling there. Faded orange on a fascia board for miniature house. Yeah, that works, Mac. I mean, just the problem with the blue is that sometimes if you brown out one color and you gray out another color, you can get a little bit of clash. I would just go like a darker blue for the roof, and if you're going to do the burnt orange for the siding. So instead of like fading out and going with like the same value, I would make it a darker value for the roof. Then you're going to avoid that problem. Because I find that a burnt orange and a blue-gray actually do not look good together. Yeah, that's the only thing I'm closer to out here on the West Coast, Dogfather, is like... The only good thing about being out here is that I'm closer to Hawaii, because I'm farther away from everything else. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is possible to cruise to Hawaii. It's not something I've ever done. Would take some time. Either that or, I mean, you could always ask your doctor for a drug to calm you down if you really don't fly, if you have a lot of fly anxiety. I used to. I still have a little bit of it. Alright, so we got that new color on there on the chest. You can see that it is more yellowy and a little bit more bold than what we had. Not a lot. For me here, I think is it a 4-6 hour? How many hours? I never remember. I think it's 6-hour flight here. San Francisco to Oahu. Flight time. I love the internet. I can just like Google search. Yeah, 5 hours, 45 minutes. Okay, so 6 hours was about right. So, and that's from San Francisco too. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be Hawaii. It's just Hawaii is wonderful. I mean, there's plenty of crackle paints. Mac. GW even has one. They have a pretty good one, actually. Games Workshop has like, and it's for when you're using crackle painted miniatures, it's usually for cracked earth, but you just use it on the side, so you got to just figure out how cracked you want it to be. But I mean, crackle paint has existed in crafts a long time. It's just that it's better to get the miniatures version than the Michaels or Hobby Lobby version, because usually the cracked paint effects that you buy at Hobby Lobby, they're going to be for much bigger pieces. And so the crackle is going to be in much bigger pattern. Whereas if you get the Games Workshop Cracked Earth, I don't remember what they call it, but if you get their product, it's actually in scale for 28. It's not going to be super cheap, but I mean, it's not going to cost you that much. "23 hours for you, Korniko. It's around the world." Yeah, getting the crackle effect in scale is important. And I think GW has both a bigger crackle and a smaller crackle, and you'll just have to kind of look for examples online and see which one suits what your mental image is. So my highlight color actually isn't... I think my brush may have an errant hair. 1 second. Yeah, there we go. I just wasn't using it very, very strong. It's just a little bit lighter. So I'll definitely need more light colors. I'm doing kind of a striped, striated brushstroke. Does it take a normal plug Twisted Oma? Because some planes have, like, outlets right by your seat. A lot of them these days. Because everybody wants to charge their freaking phone. So we're just bringing this lighter color in a little bit on the belly here, just to give it a little bit of texture. Huh, interesting, Kroniko. Yeah, I'm not sure why it would stop. Unless there's like some sort of medium in there that's got to stay in suspension, that's settling out and maybe not getting mixed in, and then as you get closer to finishing the bottle, it builds up. Like, that's the only time, like, I've seen stuff like that. Otherwise, if you're not introducing anything new to the bottle, I'm not sure why. It would have to be an imbalance thing, I would think. It could also be that, depending, if you're taking a long time and a lot of moisture is evaporating, you may be losing enough moisture to impair the crackle effect. But that can be dicey with that kind of stuff, where you don't know how much to thin it or with what, right? So, oh, manual says not to use airplane plugs. Got it, Twisted Oma. Right, exactly. Yeah, going phoneless is nice. Yeah, I just haven't seen the Green Stuff World stuff, Polly, so I can't recommend it just because I haven't actually, like, experienced it. I try not to recommend anything that I haven't personally seen the effects of. Yeah, it's got to be an imbalance of something. Either you're getting too much evaporation, just enough to impair it, or it's like just something isn't getting mixed in or is getting out of proportion in the mix that's impairing it. I want white. Oh, and it could be, yeah, that's true. Could be humidity related. I mean, crackle effect usually happens because the reason that you get it is that the top layer of paint dries faster than the under layer of paint. And then as the under layer of paint starts to dry, it essentially kind of rips apart. Like it's drying out of sequence, and so it cracks the top layer. So since it depends on the way that it dries, that is entirely possible that considering your humidity is ridiculous. Maybe it's just like, okay, not so great shelf life. Interesting. Stir it up. And see, that's what I was thinking, Lord Dave, is that it was some proponent of it getting out of balance. And then you end up using, if you don't stir it up very well or mix it up very well, essentially you end up using, like that stuff settles out. You end up using the top layer, and the stuff that's settled out is just sitting down here. So essentially you lose all your top layer that you needed to get the action. And when you try to get the last bit, it just doesn't have enough of everything in it. All right, so my first idea was actually correct. Good to know. Any of those things could affect it, but so then, yeah, stirring it up maybe is the answer. I personally believe that given that Games Workshop is engineered to, like, die early, I need to thwart them by getting as much life, ridiculous amounts of life out of their paints as I can. You have to learn the tricks, Mac. You have to learn the tricks. The tricks are, store the pots upside down. Always add more water. When you open the pot, add a drop or two of water. Just make it like part of a habit. Stop doing it if you open the pot and you notice that it's really fluid, like really getting fluid, but in most times, and with GW, you're not going to see that. But those are the tricks. Like, the evil little pots they are evil. They're made to expire fast to make you buy more. But yes, the way around it, I mean, come on, guys. I still have these. Remember these? Guess what? Thick, but still good. Because I store them upside down, and whenever I open them, I add water. So if you have a color that you love, and this one actually needs more water, so let's just add a little bit right now. But this is one of my favorite metallics of all time. And so I just grab a big brush and I drip some water into it. And essentially, we'll keep it from dying. I have like 4 bottles, Kernico. I always keep them upside down and I always get them out and add water. I'm checking on them all the time. Whenever I think about it, whenever I'm like reaching for metallics, I'm like, oh yeah, I should check on my mithril silver. And sure enough, it'll need a little water. Look, there's another one. I have another one in a bag. But yeah, I mean, even the Evil Paint Pots, if there's a product, because they do put out some good products. Pricey, but good. And so, if you like the product, but you hate the bottle, either rebottle them. Yeah, this one's in better shape, not as gloppy. Either rebottle them or store upside down, add water. I personally feel like I'd rather have it where I can store them and add water, so I don't rebottle them. Hey, Cass. Yeah, the problem with Vallejo Air Silver is that you can't use it for a base coat as well. It's the closest thing to the old mithril. But one of my friends found that when he tried to do washes over it, it didn't take washes nearly as well as the mithril. So there are differences. But if you're using it for micro effects, like if you're using it for scratches and stippling it for abrasions and stuff, it works fine. Like the Vallejo Model Air works just as well as this. Yeah, I'm always suspicious of those mixing balls. The problem with those are the ball bearings, right? I've just heard horror stories of ball bearings in paint. I know those are stainless and they should be fine, but part of me just can't make that jump. But yeah, adding an agitator to the Games Workshop stuff works quite well. This one got a little gloopy. There's a little bit of kind of notching and suggestion that this kind of texture can work on this model, but it's mostly blank, so this is me creating texture where there's nothing. Rusty paint is automatically bad paint. The rust will completely destroy the paint because oxidation at that level will essentially shift your pH, and paint depends on pH to live. So rusted paint is ruined paint. That's how I know about it, is because when I first started at Reaper, Al, who was teaching me, Reaper owner at that time, told me about how he'd actually been doing a job for another company, and they wanted agitators, so they used ball bearings, and they essentially ruined all of their first batch of paint, every bit of it. I don't know which company that was, but that was a long time ago. Decades. But yeah, so I was taught never ever to reach for ball bearings. So when I saw that Army Painter had put those out, I kind of raised my eyebrows, because stainless is mostly non-rusting, but it does rust. It's unlikely, I guess, to rust as much as your normal grade of whatever. So probably it's fine. Otherwise people would have reported problems by now. But for me, it's always going to be a little sus up in my head. Probably fine, but sus to Anne. I'm going to bring in some brown liner mixed with my original color. That's a little bit too much, actually. The problem is this is a very small area. Sometimes your fine motor just isn't up to it. You're just like, oops. But I do want some shadow in here, so I'm going to add a little bit. Yeah, they should be safe, but the but always just kind of lingers in my mind. Like I said, stainless takes a long time to rust, and it, it's probably fine. But not all stainless steel is the same grade, also. Yeah, this is, I don't know. I'm sure if it was bad, somebody would have noticed that it was bad and reported, but I don't know. Your mileage may vary. You do not need to be as paranoid as me. Debating whether I should have gone, no, I guess that's okay. I want one more highlight. I'm not convinced about my little stripies, though. I'm kind of not liking them very much. So I may paint over and just highlight. Sometimes you try something and you're just like, I don't really like it very much, and you just trash it. That's the great power of acrylics, folks. All you've done is wasted a little time, but that's fine. You learned something. Yeah. Yeah, doesn't really rust, does oxidize. Well, I've seen it. I mean, there's big stainless steel sculptures at the De Young, I think, museum in San Francisco, and they actually do have, after being outside in the elements, they do have a little bit what it looked like rust. Maybe it's just a different sort of corrosion. There were pockets of it. Whatever the case, use whatever you like. Chances are it's going to be fine. But I'll stick to my hematite or volcanic glass beads, which are cheap, and I know they're non-reactive. And they're heavy enough to agitate. Yeah, that's what it's just it. There are different grades of stainless. That's the thing, right? Oh, you got some hematite and they were stainless steel? Oof. Yeah, I've Reaper uses volcanic glass and beads. You don't need something that's super heavy unless you've got really thick paint. And then, honestly, I'd rather just stick my brush in there and stir it. So I decided to go with more of an edge highlighty look here. Yeah, and I mean, what grade do you think hobby companies are using? They're not using the most expensive thing they can find, that's for sure. I speak as someone with direct experience. Yeah, the belly is definitely annoying me. I think I am going to go in. As long as it's a non-reactive material. I don't know if ceramic is non-reactive or what will, I mean, ceramic technically has a fragility rating, and you are knocking it around inside of a bottle. So I guess it could break, but I have no idea. It's not something I've ever had anybody suggest to use ceramics seriously, so you'd have to do some research on that yourself. I wouldn't do it just because I know stuff that does work, and honestly, glass beads are super cheap. So it's not and very common as well. So it's not like it's a hard to get thing. I would rather use the thing I know works than experiment with a thing that when I don't really need a better thing. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta watch out sometimes, yeah. Well, aquarium and fish are just super sensitive to that sort of thing. Yeah, he just didn't do his reading. That you can't have certain things in marine fish tanks. I used to have those. So I am going to put a little bit of a line down the middle of where she's definitely got a peak in the middle of her abdomen. It's alright. May have to continue to work on that. We'll see. It's better. Eh. We're probably going to do the feathers in red. Although, I don't know, I need to get the red in on the armor here, too. Anyway, I'm through messing around with that stomach plating. I think it's okay. Gonna block in this in white so I remember it. And maybe we'll paint it. Didn't realize these had segments before this side here, but it makes sense. Marine fish are super, super sensitive to any weirdness in the environment. You really only can put, you can't use like ornaments, you can't use, like you can use reef rock, like, or pumice. Like you're really limited as far as decorative elements in marine fish tanks because the fish are so sensitive. But yeah, you are right then in such a, especially in, that's part of it is that they're used to being out on a reef with, you know, infinite ocean refreshing their water, and instead you've put them in a tiny box. So yes, you're right. There's a lot of different things that can kill in a marine fish tank. But certainly using, I mean, you can't even use like certain, like because saltwater is so corrosive, it's going to up the oxidation or leach minerals and stuff out of whatever you put it in. Well, I mean, his eel would have been happy. He just would have run out of food for it really fast. I'm just going to do some quick lining around the paw here. I want to think about, get some of that red in up on the armor. I want to kind of figure out what my composition is going to be here so that I can figure out what color some of the leather straps and stuff are going to be. Or neutral. What neutral I want to use. So kind of a boring stream today, but when we're starting out with models, it's kind of the way it goes. It's kind of an exploratory phase where if you were breeding discus successfully, you were more than good enough to go marine. I mean, I went marine. I just essentially read everything I needed to know and went simple. Very simple. But I couldn't, the one thing that I couldn't keep alive was, I loved it. I had a copper banded butterfly fish. But he got, I think just his stress level, like, he got a bacterial infection and died. I think it was the only fish I actually lost. I sold all my fish back to the store when I left Madison. Cornico and Kodiak. get my fire. I believe we used blood red as a start for this, and then we shaded it to bring it down because it was very bright. I need to figure out my color composition on this baby. So blood red is a little bit of a darker red, but it looks very bright on the model. Oh, Richard, we're talking about why stainless steel agitators for bottles are kind of unnecessary and can be a bad thing, depending on the grade of the stainless steel, but we've mostly finished the discussion. I mostly came from somebody mentioned them, and I prefer to use volcanic glass beads because they're non-reactive, super cheap, and I don't have to worry about it. There were stories going around the industry when I first started mixing paint about essentially a paint line that had completely, their entire initial release had been destroyed because they used stainless steel agitators that rusted and destroyed their paint. Yes, you use glass because you're smart. Exactly, Richard. See? There we go. Yeah. So even if the stainless steel that Scale 75 and Army Painter and Green Stuff World, even if those agitators they sell are a high enough grade that it's okay, like, I still don't trust them. I intrinsically just don't trust it. I've heard too many horror stories, so. Alright, let's get this blood red mixed up. We're going to start applying it around. Now, there is an easier way to do gold-plated ones. Because it'd be pointless, Pendrake, you can go to any, you can go online and get strings of those suckers for $1. Like, they're so inexpensive. There's no point for Reaper to repackage it. You can go to anywhere that has any beads and you're good. You probably can even get them, not even at a bead store, you might even be able to get them walking into a Hobby Lobby. But you can definitely get them online. So there comes a point when selling and repackaging something that's extremely common and extremely cheap is just not worth it. Yeah, sure. Have fun, Mac. Good luck with your cottages. Okay, so the easy way to do this is actually to paint all of these, and if I'm going to make like gold trim on these suckers, the easy way is probably to actually start by painting it all gold and then going in and just coloring the red parts. Depends on how much red I'm actually going to do on these suckers. Those are definitely plates, and those are sleeves, so yeah. But if I do that, my initial coat of red is going to be dulled down a little bit because I'm going to have that layer of gold color underneath it. So you can try that though. If you want glass beads of any sort for your paints, just go online and buy some. They're easy to find. Up, Bow Crowley. Yeah, see you around. Alright, so we'll take some of this gold and we'll pop it over all of this stuff. put our red in the places we want to. So again, I don't have a real clear concept, as you can tell, for this character, so I am essentially just going around testing things to see if I like them. Pretty much I'm not like satisfied with that belly color, so I'm just going to sit on it for a little bit. I'll come back to it in a day or more and see if I like it. Sometimes you just want to do that. Sometimes you don't want to hurry through. If you're not sure about something, just sit on it. Paint it. Work on a different part of the model. Work on a totally different model. Come back to it after a little bit and make your decision. And trust your gut. Don't second guess yourself. If you think it doesn't look good, don't try to talk yourself into it just because some other painter used it and they liked it. You are your own person. That applies to me as well. Any of my color schemes that you try to use and it doesn't feel right to you. Maybe your gut just doesn't like that color scheme. That's okay. And I'll do the hammer while I'm up here. I'm probably going to go with a blue-black on my neutral, I think, for the wrap on this hammer maybe. I'm debating. I'm going to need some neutrals because with the gold and the teal and the red, I've got a lot of color on this model. So I really need some neutrals to balance them out. Otherwise, it's not a pleasing model to me. Yeah, Kodiak has been like crazy today, Richard. He's trying to get our goats. He's attempting to pun damage us out of existence. I don't know why he would do that. He does enjoy this stream, presumably. Maybe his puppy has driven him to it. I mean, Kiki definitely drove me to some insanity when she was a baby. But it sounds like Nova is a better puppy than Kiki. a less devil dog one anyway. And we've got this nice band around the stone here, so I do want to make that gold, shiny. I'm making prime rib soup tonight. Actually today, because I have to start the Instant Pot probably right after I bring Kiki back from her walk. The prime rib was super tasty. I'm so glad I found it on sale. So now we get the joy of having prime rib soup. Which is kind of my rationale for like buying prime ribs. It's like they're expensive, but not only do we get like 3 meals out of them, we also and lunch meat, but we also get prime rib soup, which is another 2 meals. So in the end, the cost is not that bad. It does. But I've got a little bit of extra material here that I don't want. There we go. Not that you necessarily need rivets to hold your magical band around your magical lava rock hammer, but you know, it's always good to have some reinforcement. Maybe they're magical rivets. This model is actually going to look less like a paladin and more like a warrior, but I'm fine with that. I could have painted her all holy colors, but once I saw the rock hammer, I knew I wanted to go lava with it. Prime rib soup. Yes, it's tasty. So you essentially take the bones, you keep the bone rack, which right now is in the freezer, so it's keeping itself good. If you didn't get enough browning on it when you originally cooked it, then you can put it in the oven and get some browning on it at high heat. Then pop it, essentially you make stock with it, including any extra meat that's still stuck to the bones, which usually you have a fair decent amount of. And you essentially turn that into stock. You strain it, you remove any worthwhile pieces of meat, you let the stock cool, you skim the fat, you chop up the meat to go back into the stew. If you want to, you can buy additional meat to put in the stew. I usually do. I usually add some chuck, which I would normally use in a normal beef stew. The making the broth out of the prime rib, though, gives it a really rich flavor with the browned bones and everything. And I tend to reheat. I've got a trick now where I can reheat roasts in the oven and still have them be pretty much as good as they were the first day. So my bones have been through a couple of heat cycles at this point. But yeah, I'm going to pop them in the Instant Pot, use it to make broth, and get some chuck at the store this afternoon and set up some tasty, tasty prime rib beef stew tonight. If you really want to like go crazy, you can buy ribeye to put into your prime rib soup if you want to go crazy. But I'm not quite that crazy. I find that the bone flavor and the residual meat is just fine. Yeah, you can put any veggies you want. I think traditional is like onion and mushroom, or like mushroom and potato, or I'm going to do potato and carrot with just a little bit of onion, a little bit of garlic, and I'm going to use white wine in place of red wine in place of part of the broth, because I always do. It just makes a better stew in my opinion. But yeah, it's very, very tasty beef stew. And beef stew in the winter is just superior. So yeah, so I have to go to the store and pick up some carrot, potato, salad in case David wants that with the soup. So I'm just going to line around this. But yeah, so if you ever do a prime rib, this is yet more food that you can get out of that expensive purchase. So definitely, if you search on Google for prime rib soup, you will find the recipe I use as kind of a shortcut. Like she uses, she actually slow cooks the bones. I'm going to use the Instant Pot because I have one and I want it to be a little faster than 3 or 4 hours. But otherwise, and she doesn't add extra meat, but I do. It's all into you just want it to be a soup, in which case you can, add your vegetables and use the leftover meat that you chopped up. You don't need a ton of meat to have a good soup, good vegetable beef soup, but I like it to be a stew, so I want to have some more meat in there, that's for sure. So yeah, it depends. Most recipes I use online or anywhere else, I tend to use as a blueprint, and then I just alter it depending on how I want it to go. So oh yeah, it's CrossFit tonight, so I shouldn't do anything too ambitious, but if I can set it up early enough, I think I'm going to be fine. Because I have to eat and get to CrossFit. Especially because I missed Tuesday because of the procedure. No CrossFit for me. So there's a plate here, but there's also a sleeve behind it, so that'll be leather. This will be leather. The cuff will be. As always, while I'm lining, I can kind of look at what I've got. It lets me just kind of sort out the areas I'm working with. David's folks got him wine for Christmas, which is like bottles of wine, which is kind of like not really useful to us anymore because I don't drink. So a bottle is like not the best thing for us. So I'm kind of thinking maybe I should break into one of those for the stew. I have to look at what they got us and see if there's something suitable. But yeah, we'll see. I think I'm going to make the prime rib soup, but if the day gets too busy on me, I'll have to go for something easier tonight and make it tomorrow instead. Usually I save those big production number meals for days when I don't have CrossFit because it's just too easy to run out of time. Or, in order not to run out of time, I end up sucking up work time doing meal prep, which is also not ideal. Alright, now I know I want this inset area to be red. I'm not sure about some of these outside plates, so I'm going to, in order to keep the red from being real dark when I put it on, I can underlie it with white, but that will make it be very bright. Since I actually do want my starting coat to be a little darker and not super saturated, I am going to put it over the gold color. That will make it not look as bright as putting it over white would. And this little inset area here, there's a little inset. I'm not sure what I want to do with that. If I want to make it an accent color or if I want to do something else with it. Keep it gold because I know I'm going to be doing the lava effect here. I think my leather is going to have to be dark. Just looking at all the lighter, like I don't have any blacks on here yet. And I don't want to make the leather really light. So that's quickly leaving me with the choice of having to go dark with the leather, which is not a bad thing. It's what I typically like anyway, because I don't like to draw too much attention to it. The only exception that we've done a light leather on, I think, in the recent past was the Knoll Pirate. Twisted Oma's son, I believe. Maybe he's been watching too much Forged in Fire. That's what we watch at night. That's our right before bed show. When there's not Bake Off. If there's Bake Off, then Bake Off is our before bed show. Alright, I'm probably going to make the back of the shield black. The straps are going to be either red or brown. Not sure about that cuff right now. Maybe I'll make that little cuff around her arm, since it's just there to kind of act as a wrap so her arm doesn't get rubbed by the shield. I might make that red. That way we've got an accent color again. I'm going to block that in. admit blacksmithing looks kind of fun. But fire is not my friend. It's not my element. So I learned that in metals class when I took metals class. I was continually thinking I was probably going to, like, horribly burn myself or explode my head or something. Just not my thing. Wood is not my element. Fire is not my element. I think water is more my element. Water and earth, because I love rocks so much. I always joked that I never learned to cast when I was at Reaper Quindy because I was afraid I was just going to end up sticking my head into the pot. Like, just because I'm, like, so... When I'm distracted by something, I'm so absent-minded and I do such stupid things that I'm just like, it's probably better for all of us if I just stay far away from fire. But, things like pouring your creamer into your, like, eggs. Things like when you get distracted, right? When you're in a, like, forging environment, getting distracted or, like, not doing things as you should, like, tends to be, like, harmful to you. And so I just never trusted myself around fire. Intrusive thought. I've been hanging around Luca too much. But yes, I cannot be trusted around extremely hot things. I've determined this. I have to be very, very careful when I'm working with, like, the cast iron pot in the kitchen so that I don't forget that it's super hot and burn myself. So we're going to map in some red here. We'll have a lot of gold. I haven't decided about that color yet. I might make it a shiny black or something. I don't know. We'll do something cool with it. Yeah, might go black with that, actually. Could be cool. And I'm not being very neat about this. You can see I'm getting kind of clumsy with it, but that's okay. I haven't done anything around it yet. I'm sure it would be lots of fun for somebody who wasn't prone to, like, sticking their hand in front of a torch, but you should see me in metals class. I spent the first, I would say, 80% of metals class being scared of the torch. Like, terrified of it. Like, there was just like, fire is not my freaking element. And woodworking class, the saws. It was just a nope. I was like, take me back to turpentine, please. Get me away from the hazardous power tools and the crazy fire that can melt me. I know something bad is gonna happen. This is me. So there you go, guys. There you go. Yes, be on the other side of the screen. Exactly. You understand, Krinko. You understand. Hey, Roger. But yeah, this has been my feeling about fire and sharp things for a long time. So much as blacksmithing looks fascinating, I don't think it's for me. I think I'll stick to knitting. Yes, I had a very healthy respect for all of the power tools and the fire flamethrowers, right? I had a healthy respect for it. I was, like, not so secretly terrified of it. But yeah, it took me, like, once I got over, like, my fear of the torch, like, metals class was better. And I know that if I had stuck with it, maybe, I would have learned some cool stuff, right? But I was so scared of the fire that it was just like a reprieve to like not take metals too. Like I barely passed that class with like by the skin of my teeth because I was so scared of all of the things that made fire. So I accepted that it was not for me. Fascinating, but not for me. Maybe now I could be a little less terrified of it. Yeah, you can't tell how far the heat goes out. Right, exactly. Yeah. You understand, Julie. Yeah, and healthy respect would be me. Or outright terror would be me. Yeah, I just decided that water-based things, much as I'm not really scared of water. I always say I am, but it's because I watched Jaws as a kid when I was too young. It's not the water that scares me, it's the things in it that can eat me, but like huge waves also. Like the ocean is a scary thing, but I feel much more like happy around water than I do around fire. So, if I had elemental affinities, I would probably be an earth and water type. There we go. All right. We'll have to put a little line there to separate it out. It just kind of ends. Uh-huh, only for work things. Yeah, right, Richard. Water only scares me because I have been punished by it. The ocean, whenever the ocean and I have interactions, it's kind of we're kind of side-eyeing each other. And inevitably, if I like lose my concentration, it will hurt me. So I have learned this the hard way. So the ocean and I have an uneasy truce because my husband loves it, and it doesn't hurt him, but it hurts me. It's like when my dad found out like that I'd snorkeled with David in the Big Island, and he found out that David hadn't gotten me a life vest, and he was like, "You took her in without a life vest?" Like seriously, he was like, "Are you nuts?" Because he knows me. And I was terrified. Like I was almost hyperventilating, terrified during that snorkeling run. I did it because David asked me to, and I didn't want to be a total coward, and I had to face my fear at some point. So I faced my fear, which with the result that I can now snorkel. But, life vest from now on, please. Yes, exactly, Shadow Raven. The ocean will absolutely kill me. I know it. I know it's eyeing me up. I know. It's like just kind of waiting. It's like, when will you be a dummy? Yeah, that won't work for me, Agent Marvel, because I like don't drink it anymore. Couldn't have any fun. Katie at Reaper though, she brews mead, and we had friends that actually the people who took Blazy when we needed to rehome Blazy, Kiri's daughter. They also brew mead. They've been doing a Renaissance series fairs for decades though. They're very good at mead brewing, whereas Katie, it's a hobby. Maybe she still does it. I don't know if she still does it or not. I get vertigo out of video games, okay? Yes, exactly, Quindy. Yes. Let's swim in pools, which are nice and safe. There are no giant waves to eat me or to push me down where the I can drown and the evil monsters can eat me. Right. Yes. I'm only slightly uptight about this. And it's funny because water, other than the ocean, water and I are great friends. But the ocean is mighty and I am not. Maybe we'll do some scale pattern on this green part here, freehand. You know, Dogfather, never, as somebody who is very afraid of the water, like, I feel much empathy for your wife. Don't laugh at her. Do what you have to. It's not funny. It's real fear. I mean, it's funny to you because you don't need arm floaties. But for those of us who, like, do need arm floaties, and I don't need arm floaties. I just need a life vest. But the fear is real. So respect your wife for going with you when she was that scared. Yeah, brewing and distilling is a cool hobby. I've had numerous friends over the years that brew various things. It is cool. It's like no time, and now I can't drink it anyway. So, as I think you said, Dogfather, just no time for another hobby. Yeah, they want to eat you too. They just don't know how. Whales will just, like, inadvertently drown you because they're gigantic. Like manta rays are freaking creepy. No way do I want to be in the water with one of those devil things. Like, I know why they're called devilfish. Like how creepy is that? Like, how creepy? Like, even looking at pictures of them, like, I know about. I think they're fascinating, but I will be happy to consider them fascinating on video. Yes, Volnavia, thank you. Yes. Me and Chief Brody were soulkin. Yes. I do go in the water though. Like, it's just, but he also understood that the ocean was just waiting to try to kill him. It had a good go at it too. But I mean, that's part of what makes that movie. Like, Brody has to be afraid of the water. Like, as a character, he has to. Otherwise, it wouldn't resonate, and he wouldn't be nearly as heroic doing what he does. Stingrays did. That's different from manta rays. I'll give it that. Alrighty, so we got that nice and solid. I do think that we're going to need black or white there. I could introduce a blue-white here. Still thinking. You can see how, even though this is a fairly simple model, there's just enough areas for color that you still have to stop and think about it. You have to think about your composition. You don't want to go too much red, too much crazy. I'm going to do these shoulder pads to see how much red that brings in, because we still might do the feathers in. We could do them in a combo is the thing. If we need that more splash of red up here to bring the eyes to the face, we can do some red on this feather, but maybe make it red and black or red and white, something like. This one could be a gem because it's like got a little bit of a, it projects, right? But this one's more of a recess moonlight. So mostly right now it's just thinking accents. I haven't decided if that one's going to be a gem or not. I'm probably going to put a dragon scale pattern on the green sides, and we'll go with a black or white here. I kind of wish that This center one, I wish that it did have, like, it was protruding, like it wasn't just a recess, like this guy. Because I would paint the center one as a gem. Like this, no. Just positioning more up toward the top, I would be more tempted. And this is central, so it makes sense for that to feel like more of a gem. But because it's recessed, I wouldn't probably. Yeah. I like to have a little bit of a bulge out like you did with this one if I'm going to do a gemstone. And I haven't decided really up on this one if I will. It depends. I was saying she like isn't like dressed like a paladin at all. She looks more like she's going to be more like a fire warrior. So I'm going to do lava on the hammer. I'm tempted. I have 2 copies of this, so I'm tempted to paint the other one very paladin. Very white and gold and blue. That's what I was talking about, seriously, is this has to be either black or white in my opinion, and that the feathers will also likely be either black or white in my opinion, with a little bit of red. It's just I don't know yet, because I didn't come into this model with as clear a color concept as I usually come into a model on. So I'm exploring it, just like you guys probably do, like regularly, if you could come into a model and you're not sure what to do. You just start putting colors on it. You can always paint over what you've done. Just don't sweat it. Just go ahead and start putting colors on. Yeah, what's a rock hammer? This is actually, that's what informed every color choice on this model, Moonlight, was because of the stone hammer. I was like, okay, that's gotta be lava. There's gotta be magma rock. Like, I have to make lava veins running through it. There's just no other way for me to paint this. And once I made that decision, then I knew I had to go with red, and I've been wanting to use the dark teal for a while. So that's what we're going to be doing on that. And maybe on this, then, the answer is actually to do cracked, like, lava stone on part of this, too. We'll see. Because we've already got teal in the color scheme, seriously, you've got to be careful with it. I wouldn't go light blue, I don't know. You've got to be careful it doesn't clash with the teal. Blue and teal are really close, are, like, right next to each other on the color wheel. I don't know if you're on my Patreon or not, but I just did a Clashing Colors PDF for my $5 tier, and I talk a lot about why things clash, why they do not go together, and how to fix bad color schemes. I also did a little bit of that on stream a few days back. Oh, bye, Shadow Raven. It's good to have you here, as always. So we could go with a very, very light teal, essentially make it almost a teal gray, but really it'll be white with just that color in the shadows. If you take a color that's nearer to another on the color wheel, but you make it very much light and the other one very more dark, then you can get away with that kind of thing. I'm just not sure I want to go there yet. I won't make that decision until I have everything else blocked in, and then my gut will usually tell me what's a good combo. Light blue is dicey because of the scale color. You'd have to really make it white, and you still would probably be better off in just going, like, taking this dark teal color, mixing a tiny bit of it into white, and, like, going with that. Making it a white with a teal shadow. But I really just need to see where everything else is on here, and then I'll make a decision on these accents. She still feels girl to me because she's got a thin waist. She's, like, got the right build for it. I think she's feminine. And her muzzle's very feminine. It's very delicate. The one thing I do wish is that her eyes were a little bigger. Because it's going to be hard for me to... I want to put some... I'll probably end up making them orange to make them stand out. I can make them glow on this model because they're not recessed a lot. So maybe I have to enhance them with a bit of a glow. Orange glow on teal, though, is just going to wash out. Because they're almost complements. So it's going to gray out the teal. But I could do it. So maybe we'll do that. Because sometimes if you can make the glowing eyes, like, if they're not too recessed. Yeah, I think she reads as a girl. Especially if you do another one and you make it very much more chonky and masculine, like, then people will definitely understand and and compare the two. Yeah, that's just me. Like if I've got a cool geometric shield like this, like it's almost feels like Mayan or Aztec. Having a protrusion here just suggests that you can paint it as a gem. I find it difficult otherwise. Like if it's really recessed, then I just want to fill it with color. But if I have the protrusion like you've got here, then it's more, even if it's not faceted, I'm more likely to paint it that way. That's just me though. But yeah, bigger eyes just because, you know, when you come down to the model, you just like to be able to put a spot of color or an expression there. It's very difficult with animal characters. Well, you know, your bunnies are good with the eye, like Prism's eyes are pretty big, right? So even though she's reptilian more, like having bigger eyes gives me more opportunity to give more expression and color. I did a quick study on her for my Patreon. I was using her as the subject was taking a color scheme from nature and putting it onto a character, and so I realized that what you really would like, actually, Christine, is this. So she's got, I wanted to do a Polynesian effect. The photograph that I used for the color scheme was actually in Hawaii, when I took in Hawaii. And so this is a extrapolated freehand scheme from a Polynesian statue at the Bishop Museum in Hawaii. So I wanted to do that. So that'll end up being orange and yellow as well. I need to do a lot more work. So that she's just blocked in. She's like totally color blocked, but I used it as a learning tool for that. So essentially, if you take a photo and you love the colors in it and you want to put those colors on a mini, here's how you do that. So that's on my Patreon. That's $10 tier from a month or two ago. But yeah, I really like Prism. I think she's fantastic. I love her levitatiness. The cloak is like, it's nice because it has folds and movement, but it's broad enough for me to do that freehand. I think that's sometimes cloth annoys me because if it doesn't give me enough room, I can't, or if it's got too many folds, I can't freehand it when I want to. So, all right, let's continue on getting these shoulder pads in. I want to get, oh, wait, except it's late. Oh, yeah, this show, actually, Hallie, or is it Haley? Haley. So this show, everything goes onto the YouTube, and all of the models, and I think it's, I forget who does the compilation. I'm losing it. But yes, all of them, like you can choose any model I've done on this show. There are some that didn't get a complete, like I didn't do them to completion. There are a few that I didn't finish. But in general, most of them have like start to finish. Now, given that it streams, I'm not actually concentrating on like teaching and describing everything I do. That's the difference with my Patreon, with my paint along tier, where I'm not distracted by streaming. I'm just flat out teaching for every lesson. But you can still use them as paint alongs. There's some stuff you may have question marks about if I just didn't like fill in, if I was talking about something and didn't fill in what I was doing. But you can still do it. Yeah, everybody, all my Patreon stuff, when you sign up, you have access to everything I've ever done. The thing I need to do, Moonlight, though, and that I've been very lax on, is that I need to do more collections. So I need to, like, put together, like, I have my color theory stuff all in one collection. So if you go on my Patreon and you go to collections, you have access to all my color theory stuff right there. I need to do that for a lot of my other stuff. So technically the color composition one that I did with Hairfolk, that needs to go probably into color theory because it is talking about color composition a lot, right? So, bye, Richard. Yeah, these, I mean, when I don't feel it, Allie, because I'm just doing this because I'm just streaming for Reaper, like, it's just what I do, I don't, like, have to finish anything I don't want to. So if a model really pisses me off, or I just don't like it, I end up working on it and I just don't want to finish it. I think there's only been like 3 models in all of the time, 3 or 4, in all of the time I've been doing this. My Patreon is an amazing deal, Christine. More people need to know. But yeah, it'll be even better when I get around to doing the collections, because then new people can come in and they can like find all the old stuff. I keyword everything. So if you search for a keyword like lining, it'll pull up everything from I've done. And so the keyword thing is something to use if you're on my Patreon. You can find almost any subject. Like if you start typing it in, it'll tell you like what's out there. But I would really like to have collections, so that makes it even easier for people. Just takes time. Feigning surprise, yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. I try, these days, if I start something, I kind of make minis fight for my love, Hallie. Like, I won't start a model unless I feel like this is something that I really want to paint. And then I know I'll finish it. It might take me a long time, especially if I'm painting for myself, because like, on Reaper, I'm working for Reaper, so obviously I'm going to finish stuff here pretty regularly. But when I'm working for myself, it's, then it becomes the same thing everybody has to work with, is motivation and time management, and figuring it out. So I'm still, mostly my Saturday stream is when we work on stuff for me. Like Owlbear. Maybe we'll go back to Owlbear and get his fur done finally. But, and I need to do Crystal Dragon. Crystal Dragon is still, he's sitting, the reason Crystal Dragon takes a while is that it's all the same colors, right? So you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sick of purple and teal. and then you're like, all right, well, I'm going to wait to work on this again. So essentially, once I get over my purple and teal annoyance, I'll get back to it. But yeah, so I do, Crystal Dragon is going to be for ReaperCon, I think, Moonlight. Well, and so is, hey, I got more yellow on her. I don't know if you saw her, but she's, we bring in the yellow up here. So this one will be for ReaperCon. I'll get her done for ReaperCon, because I want one of your trophies, damn it. I really want one of your trophies. Your trophies are too pretty, and I want one. So I'm going to enter her at ReaperCon when I get her done, and then the dragon, Crystal Dragon, just for fun. And then we'll see what else I get done for ReaperCon, but I have my cat girl, who I just printed. And I've been trying to not get distracted because I didn't have the oomph when I took those days off for the procedure. I didn't have the oomph to work on painting stuff. I ended up doing a lot of reading. But this coming weekend, I'm looking forward to working on Catgirl. I need to take off a lot of little supports and stuff from her. And really think about her color scheme. No, too close. Anything else that I put on this, seriously, is, like, that's not gonna work well with this teal. It's really, see how close it is? Like, in fact, there is teal. This teal exists on this dragon. But it's all blended together into kind of a rainbow effect. So, there comes a point, seriously, when you really don't want to put any more bright colors on a model. It's where it becomes an actual error to do so, in my opinion. There are ways around that if you plan well, but you've got to change the light and dark. And right now this gold is going to be lighter, and the teal comes up to around the same range as that, and it's just so close on the color wheel. If I'm going to put that color on here, it has to be a shadow, and I have to essentially use it as a shadow for a white or a cream. Yeah. It's too close. It's too close on the color wheel. The Crystal Dragon I used as a painting gemstones model. But actually, Hallie, if you go over to my painting big, that's my, where's my thing? Where's my thing? Ah, yeah. So on your painting big, I'm on YouTube, and I'm on Twitch. But on Twitch, but I haven't been putting the VODs over. Yeah, actually, I think you might not be able to find Crystal Dragon except on my painting crystals. That's a $10 tier in my Patreon. I do Twitch streams, and I did a lot of Crystal Dragon on Twitch, and I will do more on Twitch, but I haven't been saving my VODs over to my YouTube because right now my YouTube is actually focused on teaching. It's not just a dump place for my VODs anymore. So I don't know if I have any Crystal Dragon actually still on my Twitch, because I know that they delete those after 30 days or whatever. I don't remember if it keeps it or how long it keeps it for. If it keeps it for longer than that, you might be able to find some Crystal Dragon. Or if you just want to know how I did the crystals, you can, like I said, the Patreon has it. But yeah, I do work on it from time to time on my Twitch stream. My own Twitch stream is Saturdays at 3:30 USA Central Time. So that's a personal project, so. But that's not going to get a start to finish because it's, you know, it's a personal project. So I work on it in the evenings too when I'm just painting. So some stuff is just not going to get a start to finish, paint along. Some stuff is just my own personal fun projects. Honestly, there's so many paint alongs out there. If you also just want to know how to do crystals, look up the Rock Troll from Pro Tips. We did it a while ago. It's actually probably the best example out there other than my Patreon video. This is Rock Troll. We did him a long time ago, but you can see the crystals on his back. I really, on the stream where we did this, I went really in depth on how to make these crystals look right. And what I was doing. So, if you're really just looking for a crystal tutorial, that's a free one if you look it up on the YouTube. And then there's my Patreon, which directly uses Crystal Dragon. I do tend to do that if I'm working on a project for myself. I tend to use that as a subject matter for the Patreon here and there. So. Okay, otherwise it's 30 days, yeah. Yeah, so there you go. There you go, Allie. So, however you want to learn. That said, as pointed out by Moonlight, my Patreon is a pretty darn good deal. I've been on Patreon for, what did we say? It was just my 5-year anniversary. And although I want to redo a lot of the old stuff, because I'm always iterating and I'm always kind of evolving in my style and the way I teach, it's still 5 years of content that I put out on pretty much everything I could think of with mini painting. Also, if you haven't been over to my YouTube, scroll up and get the link. I'm doing a Fundamentals of Mini Painting series. I just finished that. And now I'm starting to do Concepts in Mini Painting and Fundamentals in Practice videos. So essentially just breaking it down by technique first and then extrapolating from there, hopefully to have a comprehensive archive of videos that can take you from beginner all the way up eventually. It'll take time to build that, but that's my goal. So I don't know where you are in your painting journey, but if you're intermediate, then maybe the fundamentals wouldn't do anything for you, unless there's a technique you're struggling with, but it's a resource. And there will be more advanced stuff starting to be put on there. I'm just starting out very slow with it. I want it to be very beginner friendly, because I really feel like a good foundation sets you up to do everything else. So just gonna pop in here and get this edge done. Yeah, don't worry about your finger blorfs, Twistoma. Hey, Twistoma, my mom is knitting her first pair of socks. She has a really cool... She got a third of the way through, and then she unraveled them and started them again because she realized she needed a size bigger. But I have a picture. Hold on. She has the prettiest yarn. It's a great sock color, if you're me. I think my mom and I have totally changed sock color preferences or color preferences. This used to be me. So here's her sock. She started on. There's her yarn. I think it's great. Because now she's painting, now she's using purples and pinks, and I'm doing teal all the time, which used to be so her color. Yeah. So those are her first socks. She and her friend are doing a sock challenge with each other because neither of them, they both knit, but neither of them had ever done socks. They both knit and crochet. I think my mom actually likes crocheting a little better. I don't. I like knitting. All right, let's get a nice base coat down on this. We probably need to call this because it's after quarter after, and I'm just like babbling and hanging out with you guys, which I love to do. Plus, I want to get the edge on the shield in. And then next time we'll continue with our color composition talk, and we'll figure out what we're going to do for our accent color, if we're going white or black or a little bit of both. Maybe we'll start blocking in the black, probably back of the shield. Obviously, if it's lava rock, the hammer will start black. Figure out if I want that black or white. Yeah, just kind of looking around and figuring out what we want to do. But yeah. And I will be streaming this weekend, 3:30 USA Central Time on my channel. That's the plan anyway. And probably, I don't know. I'm really into the little wood elf barbarians, so I think I might work more on her. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? I've been feeling more like working on Owlbear's fur because I really want to get him finished. He wouldn't take very much to get him done. So, we'll see. We'll see. No green cheese. Oh, that's nice, Twistoma. Yeah. Yeah, I'll ask you about that when I'm ready to do socks. It'll be a while. It'll be a while. First, I want to get the Kiki dog blanket done. That's going to take a long time. Long time. All right. So, that being said, that's what we got done today. We blocked in a lot more colors. I think once I throw some neutrals on here, I'm going to like it a lot better. Right now, we're all bright saturation, and we're no neutral at all, actually. I feel like when you get too many colors on a model without some neutrals, it makes your eyes tired. Like, there's nowhere for your eyes to rest, is the best way that I can describe that. And that's why I reach always for like my dark browns, my blacks, my creams, my whites, because it gives you somewhere to go with your vision. Like when you've got strong colors like this. If you're working with something soft like Crystal Dragon, that's a little bit better. But even Crystal Dragon, I went with a neutral, like beige cream for his teeth, right? A natural color. I didn't like pop more accent colors on there. And we're going to make the base a black kind of cracked stone. So I'm going to give you neutrals to like mitigate the strong color. I feel like doing that with models is just a really smart move. I feel like too much colors is just too much. You got to kind of alternate. You know, that's why I say there comes a point when you stop putting bright colors on a model and instead you look at the colors you already have and you either recycle them or you try to do something very different. Like if you're making a white, maybe you shade it with a gray version of this teal. Stuff like that. You know, and that's just like higher level color composition. It's also like, what is your goal and what feels good to you? Because everybody's color senses are different. The color that you like and the combos that you like are going to be different from what I like. So just because my gut is pretty good at balancing colors in the way that I like it doesn't mean that there isn't a million other ways to function in Colorland, right? Everybody's got to figure out their own like favorite way to use color. But if you're totally flailing around and you have no clue, start by making sure that you always use some neutrals. You don't forget your neutrals. A lot of beginning painters do. All right, guys. Yeah, everybody is like, yeah, it is. I agree that getting too many colors in a warm palette can be pretty nasty. But yeah, when you cool stuff off, I can see it. It all varies though, right? It depends on the model, it depends on the composition of the model and how composition of the different stuff on the model and your precise colors you're using and whether you're saturated or you're muted. I should show you guys. David is once again pumped out a new model and he's just too freaking prolific for my taste. He painted an Oni bust that he had lying around, and it's pretty good. But maybe I'll wait till he's a little further along and ask him if I can show you guys. All right. Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you, Quindy, for riding this train. Hey, we knocked off early a few days back, so this is my long stream to make up for that. Tomorrow, we'll be working... Hey, we'll be finishing Link Space. We're finishing Link Space tomorrow, guys. So yeah, what we're going to do is we are going to make sure we've got more grass and flock. I want to use some of my flock mix to bring it in. And I want to put a little bit back here as well to bring some of the vegetation back here. I don't think I'm going to put any leaves on it, but I want some flock and grass. I want to stipple maybe some greens for some lichen. I want to bring in more warm orangey colors onto the stones, even more than I already have. We have a little bit of water left to paint over there, but we're looking pretty good otherwise. And we have to paint our water effects. It's still a little glossy, so I need to paint it over with white so that our waterfall looks good. All right, everybody. I'm so pleased with this model. I can't decide if I want to give it to Ron or not. I'm so very happy with it. Maybe I should enter him in the competition. Maybe I should just enter him at ReaperCon, because he's really good. I like him a lot. But we'll see. Anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm super excited to be finishing them tomorrow. So tune in for the Friday Reaper Pro Tips, all right? Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.